right, welcome back to TEW Impact. We are here tonight for Victory Road. Start off with the news. We don't got a lot of it considering, there's only 2 days between Impact and Victory Road, but I at least want to get the Impact numbers out of the way because we'll have to deal with Victory Road numbers next Impact, and then we had some things happen, but nothing major. I'll get into it. So our numbers for a couple days ago, for the Impact TV rating, zero point 0.01, always. Overall rating was a 34, down from a 36, but considering 36 is the best rating we've had for before the Impact, 34 is not bad at all. Impact TV rating did go back up to a 0.33, up from a 0.31 last week. So we had a little dip, but now we're back up to right before uh, the pay per view. Again, 0.33 was our height, is our highest ratings, and we've gotten that a couple times now. So hopefully we can break through that sooner rather than later. But at least we got up there again right before the pay per view. Overall rating of 45, up from a 41, and then attendance was a 378, up from 339. Kind of surprising considering we're still supposedly taking a hit to our attendance due to our regional battles, but it must not be much of one. We've actually gone up the last couple weeks, but I think one of those weeks was a literal one person increase, but this one's almost 40, 39, I guess. So, yeah, at least we're going up instead of down, but just not going up much. So, hopefully we'll get a good turnout for the pay per view. I've been trying out for pay per views, at least for Impact. I've just been doing generic venues because who really gives a crap, and just dealing with the attendance there. I think the last couple pay per views I've actually chosen actual venues for. I'm pretty sure I did tonight's for Victory Road at Universal Soundstage. I want to say I'm pretty sure we did one for Slammiversary because I wanted that in Nashville because that was well, of course, Slammiversary. So, and of course, we had well, was that when Jeff Jarrett came back? Well, Slammiversary was for Joe. Yeah, Jeff Jarrett did come back on Slammiversary. So yeah, we had that in Nashville, and then in between that, I don't know if we did actual locations, but I'm just kind of hoping that for big events, kind of adds an air of legitimacy to our attendance. But onward to our actual news. Um, PCO. Uh, so I think this was either Friday or Saturday after Impact, but PCO requested a pay raise from 90 to 160 per show. Request granted, obviously. Um, Trying to give, pay these people what they're worth. But he also on the same day announced his retirement. So what had happened was how the news pops up, or at least how I choose to read them. I got the notice for the pay raise before I got the notice for his retirement. So, uh, of course, I like instantly accepted the pay raise, and then I found out he was retiring. But uh, not a big deal though. Like it's in 3 months' time, so we have time to write him off. You know, I don't have any huge plans for him in that 3 months' time. In fact, later on tonight, you'll probably see how we're gonna use him from probably here on out. And I know he's at least a road agent. He might be like a personality or a manager, have those capabilities. So if he retires from in ring, we're still gonna use him, just like Maria. Um, Probably will transition him more to a road agent. I don't know if I've used him as a road agent before, so I don't know how good he is. Usually, like our big brawly matches usually go to Rhino to road agent, but PCO. If like if he's not going to wrestle, that's not a big deal. We can still utilize him in other ways. So no bad news here. I did mention these. These aren't going to affect tonight, which I'll get into later. But I did want to do something about them before Victory Road before I forgot. We did some gimmick changes. We found out some gimmicks were getting stale in the last episode. Mercedes Martinez uh, went from a no gimmick needed realistic gimmick to a wrestling machine swagger gimmick, especially now that she's NWA Women's Champion. And then Savannah Evans, we're going to change her from a traditional standard to an enforcer badass. Um, but these won't be going, like I said, they're not booked tonight, which I'll get into. So these changes won't go into effect tonight. I know I was kind of struggling with coming up for a name for them, and I still kind of am. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with this, but I changed their name to Nasty Women Assassins. So, I wanted to do something with NWA. Now that she's the NWA Women's Champion, and I kind of wanted the parallels to like NWA, the rap group. But yeah, that's what I came up with. I don't know if I'm sticking to it, but that's better than what I've been doing for them. Uh, but Mercedes is working AEW tonight and not available. So this is a Saturday show. AEW, I believe, is running All Out tonight. Uh, if not All Out, just some other show. But I'm pretty sure I thought I saw All Out in the listings. So, but she's working that tonight. So I didn't have um them that program on the show at all. Which was I foresaw that. I usually at least book to or look ahead in people's availabilities to see if they're available for uh, pay-per-views. Which, speaking of, when I started booking Victory Road, I thought Joe Doring would not be available for Victory Road tonight because I figured he would be. It said he was booked for All Japan, which I think he was booked for All Japan in the last episode of Impact. But when I started booking, he was apparently available, and I think that's the second time that's happened now. And I am getting kind of mad about that. We could have used him when we didn't, but again, just something I'll have to deal with later. Maybe that's on my fault that I can't properly read their availabilities, but I'm pretty sure it said uh, All Japan was running tonight, so I planned ahead and decided not to use him, booked around his supposed absence when he could have worked it the whole time. But whatever. Yeah. So that's it for the news. Just a few things I wanted to get out of the way. So we start off the pre-show. Victory Road pre-show with the Singh crew. Again, another stable whose name I need to come up with. Followed by Raj Singh and Shera defeating the team of Willie Mack and Zicky Dice and Alex Zane from the Swingers Palace. Two-thirds of that team from the Swingers Palace, not so much Willie Mack. But in the end, it looked like Willie Mack was on his way to victory when Crazy Steve comes out. And at first it looks like he's going to help him, but instead, Crazy Steve turns on Willie Mack, attacks him from behind, allowing Ba to pin Mack. After a turn from Crazy Steve, Cheryl was really off his game. We are turning Crazy Steve heel. Hopefully, I did set this a couple weeks ago. Hopefully, said 4 segments. Hopefully, that's enough that we won't get any what's the word I'm freezing on penalty. It's not the word I was looking for, but the word I was any penalty for him turning heel too early. Okay, it's a success. So at least 4 segments was enough for Crazy Steve to turn heel on Willie Mack. So that turned out good. Not that I was too worried if he was going to be mad at us, but I would rather him not be mad at us than be mad at us. So, segment rating of 36, starting off with the pre-show, the Brute Squad, if you will. Uh, Name I'm not sure if I'm gonna stick with or not, but they defeated Willie Mack and then the Swingers Palace of Zicky Dice and Alex Zane. When Crazy Steve turned on Willie Mack, and afterwards we basically get a promo from Crazy Steve, while the rest of the crew is keeping Zicky and Zane down, beating them down. Crazy Steve talks about how when he saw these three men of Alaba and Raj Singh and Mahabali Shera take matters into their own hands and forge their own destinies beyond what the powers of B had planned for them, which was nothing. Uh, Crazy Steve felt enlightened and he wanted to share that light. He wanted to share that light with Willie Mack, and he gave him ample opportunity um, to not only listen to him, but to possibly join this crew and leave behind uh, toiling in obscurity with scrubs and people who do not take this business seriously, like Johnny Swinger and his palace. But so great, Crazy Steve talking about how he feels enlightened now. He does not feel crazy. He feels enlightened, and wanted to enlighten Willie Mack as well, but that would not be. So now Steve is joining this crew and again forging his own destiny where, again, the powers above have, lost him and abandoned him and condemned him to obscurity. He refuses. And so basically, Steve turning heel, joining this crew, claims not to be crazy, but is talking a different kind of crazy. He's claimed to talk sense into Willie Mack, but what kind of sense does he actually have? We shall see as this story moves forward. And then we get Colby Carino and Anthony Hendry, the new duo formed 2 nights ago on Impact. Colby Carino bringing in Anthony Hendry, attacking LAX after their match with the Guns, and then challenging them to a match and defeating them. Colby Carino getting the pin on Homicide after some interference from Hikuleo. So throughout the match, or sometime throughout the match, Hikuleo makes his way out. Hikuleo, the Colby Carino's former choice of partner, a few weeks back, unsuccessful in defeating LAX, but that was due to Colby playing up his supposed injury and leaving the bulk of the work to Hikuleo. So it looks like Hikuleo might be getting revenge on Carino for leaving him high and dry, but instead Hikuleo uh, attacks Homicide. Carino, or at least hits him with something. Carino rolls Homicide up for the cheap pin, probably gets a handful of tights, leg on the ropes, what have you. Colby Carino and Anthony Hendry winning the match. Luckily, 34, which is a solid rating, but we got some good notes here. Storyline is gaining heat. Colby Carino and Anthony Hendry making a good team, or excellent chemistry. So a team that we will probably be going forward with now that I know that they have good chemistry. Um, and really kind of surprising, not surprising due to them, but surprising because I wanted to bring in the Workhorsemen as a team, and like I mentioned last episode, I was not able to bring in JD Drake, so I kind of had to settle for Carino and Anthony Hendry teaming together, and luckily that works out. And now they have Hikuleo on their side. So after the match, they basically stand tall in the ring, kind of do like a shield uh, fist, hands in the middle of the ring, hands together, kind of uh, show of unity, if you will. So we have a new unit here. Again, not sure what to call them. And again, I wanted this to include JD Drake, but since that's not possible, we're going forward with this unit of Carino, Anthony Henry, and Hikuleo in Carino's recent crusade against Homicide and what he supposedly has done to his father and his career. So, segment rating of 23. So that's the last um, segment for the pre-show. So the segment, like, not ending the pre-show off hot, but a solid pre-show. We got some stories going. We'll go to the main show. But first, I gotta do some stuff. So I'm gonna cut some stuff out, and we'll be back with the main show for Victory Road. All right, so we are starting off Victory Road tonight with the mixed tag husband versus wife tags as Jordynne Grace and Jonathan Gresham face off against Rich Swann and Su Yung. Um, we I did this as a cinematic match. Partially because I was afraid Jordynne and Su Yung would not have chemistry like they didn't in their singles match last month. Uh, but that wasn't too much of a concern here. So basically, the story here is that, and it's not completely a cinematic match, so something I want to kind of describe. Basically, Jordynne and Su Yung start the match off, and they kind of pace around each other. They go to tie up, collar and elbow tie up, and while this happens, the lights start flickering. Sue looks like she's doing weird stuff until the lights go out completely, and when they come back, they're gone. So Su Yung and Jordynne Grace have suddenly disappeared, leaving Gresham and Rich Swann. They're both confused. They get into the ring. Eventually, the video screen shows that they've somehow been Jordynne and Sue have somehow been transported into some other darker realm. So basically, what goes on from here on out is that uh, half of the match is Jordynne and Sue wrestling in uh, another realm. Uh, the video feed constantly going in and out, while Gresham and Swann wrestle their part of the match in the ring. So, in real life, this would probably need to be like timed exactly. So, we are definitely taking some creative license with this. But basically, anytime there's a lull in the Gresham versus Swann match in the ring, it goes to the video feed where Grace and Su Yung are doing their gimmicky thing. Uh, Eventually, Grace realizes she's in like some weird other realm and wants to go back into the ring. And basically, the story to their part of the match is that Grace demands that Su Yung take her back to the real world, or else she'll, do something, or else she'll choke her out or something. Eventually, it comes to the point where she gets Sue in like a sleeper hold, and she's basically demanding like take me back, or else I'm gonna choke you out. And eventually, the video feed goes out, the lights flicker, they go out, they come back on, and Jordynne Grace is still. They're both back in the ring. Jordynne Grace still having the uh, sleeper hold or the choke hold or whatever, if you will, on Sue, and Sue having brought Jordynne back to the real world. And now eventually tapped out. So Jordynne Grace, Jonathan Gresham getting the win. Grace overcoming the spooky gimmickry of Su Yung. Segment rating 42, so that did better than I thought it would. Again, I was worried that there would be a lack of chemistry between Grace and Su Yung, like there was last time. But everyone doing well. Su Yung with the lowest of 42 or 32, Grace 39, Gresham 47, Rich Swann 41. Storyline gaining heat, but we're deciding to end it. So I won't say we are splitting the whole husband and wife dynamic, but we are going to be splitting these couples apart from each other. I do have some future plans with Jordynne and Jonathan as a unit. Maybe less so Rich Swann and Soo Young, but luckily this match working out for us. So 42. And then we go backstage where we see ODB. ODB having uh, answered the open challenge of Viper and returning to Impact for one possible last match. She's watching what happened in the previous match when Eric Young and Damien O'Connor walk by, and ODB immediately goes to grab Eric Young, tries to give him a hug, and she's like, "Oh, it's long time no see," and she kind of motions to the monitor, and she's like, "Well, remember when we used to do that?" And Eric's like, I refuse to I refuse to acknowledge, you know, any sort of." And ODB is like, "Come on, we got married. We were You used to be a knockout tag team champion with me." And Eric Young is just embarrassed. He's like, I don't do that anymore. I'm the elder statesman of Impact. I take this seriously and blah blah blah." And is just so flustered and just basically stomps off. ODB kind of having shown him up in front of Damien O'Connor as, bringing up the past that Eric Young probably would like to have buried. But a little segment kind of showing Eric Young wasn't always the serious man that he claims to be now, that he has a past that he's probably embarrassed of. Segment rating of 33 for that. We go out to the ring where Michael Bennett, Maria Kanellis come out to the ring. Michael Bennett is like, "Okay, D'Lo Brown, let's cut to the chase. You made it so I can't prepare for my opponent, so just bring them on out now. Let's just get this over with. Let me beat them. Let me go home. Let me show you up, whatever." And D'Lo Brown announces Michael Bennett's mystery opponent, the replacement for Dalton Castle, Juice Robinson. So Juice Robinson returning to Impact, former Impact Tag Team Champion, even at the beginning of this diary. But Juice Robinson having left New Japan, so we decided to bring him in on a contract. D'Lo mentioning how people have been calling him and wanting to make their return to Impact, and this is Juice making his return as a singles guy. Um, Debuting a party animal gimmick. Initial rating of great, which works out. Storyline continuing the segment. Maria helping Bennett out with the segment. And no real pros and cons to this gimmick, but Juice Robinson coming back as a singles, taking on Michael Bennett tonight. Segment rating of 35 and winning the match. Decent wrestling, but not much heat. Segment rating 43, which is good, keeping our show alive. Bennett usually bringing us good numbers, but Bennett, like you mentioned, unable to prepare for his opponent because it was a mystery. He could have prepared for anybody. Juice with the element of surprise, if you will. So Juice getting the win tonight. D'Lo Brown getting one up on Michael Bennett and Maria Kanellis and so on. Segment rating of 43, starting off Juice's return and singles run on a high note. And then we get another segment with Eric Young and Damien O'Connor. Basically, actually, we go to the ring where Jake Something is making his entrance for the match tonight with Eric Young. Jake Something makes his entrance. Eric Young's music hits. No Eric Young, no Damien Connor. Nobody comes out for at least a good. They play his music like two or three times. Eric Young doesn't come out. Eventually, they show on the video screen that Eric Young and Damien O'Connor are too busy backstage beating on Heath and Rhino. Heath and Rhino backstage friends of Jake something being beaten down by Jake's opponent tonight. It was likely that Heath and Rhino would probably not have been a factor in the match anyway, considering Jake wanting to do this on his own. But this is just Eric Young and Damien O'Connor, one being a dick, two getting the upper hand, and three possibly venting some frustration from earlier his confrontation with ODB earlier tonight, being embarrassed by him. So eventually it gets broken up. Eric and Damien are uh, pried off of Heath and Rhino. Heath and Rhino are down and out. Young and O'Connor demand they're forced to go to the ring for their match. Segment rating of 34. Rhino getting better at his gimmick. I don't even remember what his gimmick is, but we go to the match and Eric Young beating Jake something in the end. I don't remember if it was by submission, but I definitely had interference from Damien O'Connor. Once again, proving that Eric Young can probably not beat Jake something on his own. He beat Jake something in a 6-man with, a handful of tights or, some sort of cheap maneuver. Tonight he gets another win, but definitely had help from Damien O'Connor. Something Jake, not having any help, he probably wouldn't have had. If Heath and Rhino were to have come out to the ring, it would probably have been for moral support, if anything. But the fact that Eric and Damien beat them down, left them laying in some sort of questionable condition that probably got something into Jake's head, which allowed him to not be 100% focused on the task at hand, leaving him open for some interference and a cheap win on Eric Young. For Eric Young. Segment rating of 39, something in ring performance of 50. So that's really good to see because I definitely want to get Jake something up into like upper mid card, if not title contention. And they have great chemistry together, which I don't know if they had before. So I know Eric's kind of been um, on the lower end of performance, especially after recovering from an injury that put him out for a good chunk of this game. Uh, he kind of had to start all over, and seeing stuff like this, not a great match, but seeing Jake hit that level, seeing Eric be able to, I guess kind of have some great chemistry after being out for so long. Uh, Good to see all around, even though it's not really resulting in great numbers. Uh, Afterwards, we go backstage where Jordynne Grace kind of cooling down from the previous match. She is confronted by the Knockouts champion Rosemary, who, as we mentioned on the last episode of Impact, will not be defending her title tonight because due to the injury of Tennille Dashwood, her opponent, that match is being pushed up to Bound for Glory. So she has a free night. Rosemary says she saw her match with Su Yung, and she says she's basically glad that Jordynne took her advice to think beyond the ring and that there are other realms beyond the real world. And Jordynne Grace kind of thanks her, but also says, like, I don't even though I've kind of seen it now, I still don't necessarily believe in all this hocus pocus voodoo stuff you guys got going on because I live here in the real world and it's time you know, I'm done playing games with Su Yung. I'm done playing all these spooky Halloween games, whatever you want to call them. And then she looks down at Rosemary's Knockouts title and she's like, I respect you, but there's going to be a time sooner or later I'm going to come back for that. I'm going to take back the title I once had, and I hope you're ready to uh, be, defend it here in the real world. And they just kind of like face off and they have respect for one another. But, of course, Rosemary wants to remain champion. Jordynne now stating intent of getting back there someday. So segment rating of 42 for that segment. Then we go to match with jobs on the line. Brian Myers versus Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry uh, not only putting his job on the line if he loses, but if he were to win, they could reinstate Nick Stapp CPA. It's pretty much Brian Myers in control for a good chunk of it. Joe Hendry getting a few shots in here and there, but we have Avery Good and VSK outside of the ring getting shots in, distracting the ref, allowing Brian Myers to cheat, what have you, the typical thing. Eventually, the ref getting knocked out somehow, some way, which allows Avery Good and VSK to lay out Joe Hendry and then hold him, much like in the last episode of Impact, hold him up for Brian Myers to produce a cane, which he did last week, and threaten to knock out Joe Hendry when, of all people, well, of course, Nick Stapp, CPA, runs out to the ring. Runs out probably from the crowd. Not an employee of anybody. He was let go. He walked out on Brian Myers, but it looks like he's come to apologize. CPA kind of begs him, and he's like, "I'm sorry. I want back in. Let me do it. Give me the cane. Let me do it. Let me knock out Joe Hendry. Let me show my loyalty to you. Give me the cane. I will knock out Joe Hendry. Hire me back to the Creative Pro Wrestling Academy. I will follow you. I just want to show my loyalty." And Myers, feeling getting his ego stroked, does give CPA the cane, which results in CPA kicking Myers right between the legs and then hitting Avery Good and VSK with the cane, allowing Joe Hendry to come up from behind with Avery and VSK out of commission. CPA revives the ref. Hendry getting a second wind and lays out Brian Myers and gets the win. So Joe Hendry, his spot is safe, and now sick Nick Stapp. Call him sick Nick Stapp, maybe. No, but he's back in it. He can have his job back. So thanks to Joe Hendry. Segment rating of 35, so not great, but better again, better than I'd hoped. Probably not as great as I maybe described it, but gaining heat with the segment and ending that we are going to end the storyline. So basically, uh, we are turning Nick Stapp face. It's been built up for 11 segments, so hopefully this should be good. Maybe think about changing his gimmick, but he is a tax collector, so I want to. So yep, face turn for Nick Stapp. Joe Hendry saving his job, bringing Nick Stapp's job back, and we get a celebration after the match. Segment rating of 29. So these guys, especially Nick Stapp, is still on the lower end of, you know, overness, if you will. But a feel good story. Nick Stapp getting his job back, finding friendship with Joe Hendry, finally breaking away from Brian Myers, and I wouldn't say necessarily, well, standing up for himself, definitely. I was going to say being his own man, but you can say that, but he's also found friendship with Joe Hendry and uh, basically able to turn his back on his once mentor. Um, Segment rating of 29 for that. So we get a feel good ending for that Nick Stapp story, and hopefully onward and upward for the both of them. And then we get the Knockouts Tag Team Championship match. The Inspiration, the former champions, losing their titles due to some interference by Tenille Dashwood, but with Tenille being out injured tonight, she's not a factor. And no shenanigans here, but in the end, the BFFs retaining Deonna Purrazzo. Well, I guess this is their first defense since winning the titles. Deonna Purrazzo showing dominance basically. So and submitting Cassie Lee in the end with the Fujiwara armbar. So it's kind of obvious Deonna is head and shoulders above everyone else. Chelsea Green is a weak link. Um, Chelsea Green off her game seems to be a running trend. Cassie Lee's gimmick's getting stale, so that's something we might have to look for uh, changing. Segment rating of 43, so decent, but in the end, just kind of keeping the status quo, if you will. Deonna showing how much better she is than the rest of the crew. Um, if she's at a 50, Jake Something's in the 50, and it's like Josh Alexander's in 50, so she's probably like our top performing uh, female talent. So something to keep in mind. Hopefully, um, it's enough for Deonna's talent to elevate the tag team titles. Hoping Chelsea Green doesn't bring them back down again, but they are best friends forever, and they retain the Knockouts titles, and they celebrate after the match, so they get a celebration segment. We are continuing the storyline, because while the issue might not necessarily be between the BFFs and the Inspiration, it also involves Tennille, and Tennille's story is not yet over. So, yeah, that storyline, still needing a some closure. We go to the X Division title match where Swerve Strickland defeating Will Hobbs in 11:37. Swerve Strickland making defense number 6 of the X Division title, 39. So that's kind of a bummer. Hopefully it would have gone better if I had made this like a pure high spots match. I kind of expected this to be a somewhat clash of styles, but this is, speed versus power. And also the story that, on the one hand, Chris Bay is banned from ringside, but also Swerve kind of fighting from behind after having been powerbombed through a table on Impact. But in the end, Swerve retaining the title once again, dominating the X Division, remaining X Division champ. Um, Swerve with an in-ring for a 48, Hobbs 34. We are ending this particular storyline. Basically, I just kind of had this as a generic storyline for Swerve and his title reign, and I was just kind of swapping in and out whoever he was going to be facing at the time. I don't have any concrete ideas for Swerve going forward. I I have I have an outline of an idea for what I want to do with him, but I feel like anything I say might spoil that, even though it's not really like earth shattering plans. But still, Swerve, the X Division is Swerve's house. He's got the title. He's, been a dominant champion and proving it with a defeat over Will Hobbs. Segment rating of 39. We get a promo from Maria Kanellis backstage in her locker room, in her Maria KaneLLC locker room. Um, I didn't really have this planned. I just kind of I put this here to pad out the show, basically. But Maria disappointed somewhat, that her husband. She's kind of like trying to do like a rallying speech, but kind of hard to do that. Her husband just got beat earlier tonight, but she blames it on him being unable to prepare. But she talks to the rest of the crew, who the match next is the 3-on-1 punishment match. So she's basically talking to Steve Maclin, Matthew Rehwoldt, Black Taurus, and uh, Matt Striker, Robert Evans, the rest of the crew, talking about making an example of W. Morrissey and how she will force him to uh, play by the rules, stay in line. He refused to do that. He refused to put Steve Maclin over a few weeks ago on Impact, and this is his punishment. And after tonight, he will learn not to mess with Maria. So the gist of that, good segment, even though I didn't plan on it. Segment rating for 52, so that'll help with the overall rating. This match, not so much. Segment rating of 32 for a 3-on-1 handicap match, which is to be expected. Everyone kind of on the same level of talent, but in the end, Morrissey is not even a 3-on-1 match. It ends up being a 5-on-1 match basically because both Matt Striker and Robert Evans are at ringside and do do some sort of interference or distraction. Morrissey, able to hold his own to an extent, but considering he's facing 3 people in the ring and dealing with 2 annoyances outside of the ring, cannot get the win. I think I have Maclin. Yeah, Maclin pinning Morrissey in the end. So Maclin getting that pin over Morrissey that he wanted a few weeks ago. After all, it just took a beat down on 3 people and a distraction from 2 more. Segment rating of 32. Morrissey and Black Taurus with 33s. Rehwoldt and Maclin with 35s. Morrissey off his game. Robert Evans doing good work at ringside. So pretty average, but getting over the fact that, this is punishment for Morrissey on behalf of Maria Kanellis, and it seems to be working. So, because Morrissey is not able to uh, come out on the other side. We get a promo, we get an interview with the Impact World Champion, Josh Alexander, conducted by Gia Miller. She wants to talk to him about his title defense against Lance Archer, but also wants to figure out what the deal was last week. They saw on, before the main event match on Impact a couple nights ago, him getting a cryptic countdown message and wondering what that's all about. And Josh's like, I don't know what it's about. I don't know who it's from. But what I do know is it's intended to get me off my game for whatever reason, and that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna be focused, and I'm gonna, you know, I'm focused 100% on Lance Archer. Ace Austin might be a factor with his title shot briefcase. Maybe that was from him. I don't know, but I'm just gonna go into this match like I've been going into all my matches, all my title defenses. I'm going in focused. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna walk out Impact World Champion, and that's basically it. Segment rating of 35 for that. Again, I think this was mostly to pad some time, but also remind people about the so-called countdown message that Alexander had gotten on Impact. We go to the tag team titles matches. I was gonna say knockouts, but the Wolves versus the Gospel of Violence. In the end, the Wolves winning. They've had a series of matches, series of brawls mostly, between the 2 teams in some shape or form. The last couple weeks have been 1-on-1, but now we get 2-on-2. I did not do this as a wild brawl because a couple of matches I had already said as wild brawls, and I didn't want them. Um, I did that as work the crowd. I think I did something versus Eric Young as a wild brawl, and then ODB and Viper, which still is coming as a wild brawl. So I didn't want to do this as a wild brawl, even though it's been built on wild brawls. But I kind of figured the Wolves are putting in such good numbers that it doesn't really matter, and that's really the case here. Segment rating of 51. They retain. They have great chemistry. Performances in the 60s. Brody's in 42. PCO's 32. So they, on paper, tried to build them up as badasses, but really they did not have much of a chance of dethroning the Wolves as the World Tag Team Champions. So the Wolves retain. Segment rating of 51. So pretty good match. Solid match. Probably maybe the best match of the night. We'll see at the end. We'll see how the main event goes. I have high hopes for that. Uh, but yeah, afterwards, the champs celebrate. They go back to the ring, or they go back to the back. The losers remain behind in the ring, and it looks like Brody King is yelling at PCO uh, for which I didn't mention PCO taking the pin in that match. So Brody basically blaming PCO for the loss until it gets to the point where Brody's shoving PCO and eventually slapping him, which revolt which results in a basically big slap fight between the two into a devolves into a pull apart brawl, which Father Tyler Bateman tries to get between, even though he probably looks like, he's glad to see the violence, but considering this new unit of the Gospel of Violence is suddenly imploding, probably not good news. So PCO and Brody King not satisfied with the loss and taking their anger out on each other now. Segment rating of 38. Their storyline continuing but losing heat. We shall see how that works out. And then we get the Viper Open Challenge answered by ODB. Like I mentioned, this was a wild brawl. Viper defeating ODB in 6 minutes. I had this as fairly short. I didn't know how good ODB was going to do considering she's retiring soon and probably hasn't been active. But doing okay. Segment rating of 39 overall. Viper with a performance of 40, ODB 24. So that's kind of to be expected. I just didn't know how low her performance would be. So basically, like kind of an extended squash. ODB getting some shots in, but Viper being the younger, probably tougher uh, opponent, putting ODB down, confirming or winning her open challenge, putting out ODB. So this is kind of like a farewell to ODB. Yeah, kind of, you know, there's not really behind this other not really much behind this other than kind of keeping Viper active and uh a threat somewhat. She had probably lost some steam after losing her shot at the Knockouts title, but you know, a way to keep her relevant by beating a former Impact legend on her way out. So segment rating of 39 for that. We go backstage somewhere, I guess. Um let's just go back to I didn't really have I have this segment planned, but I didn't know how to do it. But basically, Ace Austin, Madman Fulton hanging out backstage, lurking around. Austin creepily, stroking his title shot briefcase, and he's like, "Well, you know, I'm going to be watching that world title match intently, and regardless what happens, I could easily swoop in, spoil it for everybody, change the night, change the course of history, become world champion. Whether I beat Josh Alexander or Lance Archer, those two are gonna beat the crap out of each other, and it'll be easy pickings for me." And he's interrupted by Speedball Mike Bailey, and he's like, "I wouldn't be so sure about that." So I'm sure you've heard me talking about wanting to cash in that title, wanting you to cash in that title shot the right way and whatever. And I realized that was a fool's errand. You're not gonna do that. You're gonna do whatever gonna want to do with that, just to get the world title. So I've been talking with Gail Kim. We came to an agreement. For the next 2 weeks, you are banned from cashing in that world title briefcase. And that sends Ace Austin's like, no, you can't do that. I won this fair and square, and I can use it however you want. He's like, Bailey's like, I just cleared this up with Gail Kim. It's only gonna be for 2 weeks. Next 2 weeks of Impact. Because at Bound for Glory, we're going to take that briefcase and we're gonna hang it up above the ring. And it's gonna be you and me in a ladder match at Bound for Glory for that briefcase. And if you win, I stay out of your hair. You can cash it in as, sneakily and as, you can cash it in however you want. But if I win, I'm going to prove to you what a real, wrestler does and a true sportsman is, and I'm going to cash it in the right way. So you're unable, so Ace Austin, unable to cash in his title shot, including tonight. So he'll probably derailed his plans for tonight. For possibly sneaking in and becoming world champion at the end of Victory Road, like he said, picking up the scraps, and so his plans for that are ruined, and his whatever he had planned for the next couple weeks on hold because at Bound for Glory it'll be a ladder match: Ace Austin versus Mike Bailey. Whoever climbs the ladder and retrieves the briefcase will hold that briefcase from then on out and do with it what they want. Segment rating of 33 for that, so not a great segment, but already considering Bound for Glory is just 2 weeks after this, we only have 2 weeks, two Impact shows, so got to get the big name matches for Bound for Glory. So we got a ladder match for the world title shot briefcase, and then we have our Knockouts title match, which was supposed to be tonight, but has been pushed back. So we got to get that Bound for Glory card filled out while we can, and definitely the next couple weeks of Impact will be spent filling that card out. We go elsewhere backstage where the Wolves, tired, beaten down, exhausted from their their tag team title defense. They're trying to cool down. They're trying to, get their wits about them again. They're just like we've been, they're trying to cut like a promo, trying to cut like a post match New Japan promo to no one in particular. When suddenly they're interrupted by the Machine Guns, and the Machine Guns are like, "Man, that was a great match. That was a hell of a fight. You guys are probably tired, huh? You guys are probably exhausted." And not to mention the last couple weeks of Impact, those one-on-one matches, PCO, Brody King, those are tough guys. You're probably exhausted from those brawls. And you can tell, like, the more they're talking about it, the more they're being condescending. And eventually, the Guns they're like, you know, since you're so exhausted, since you're so wiped out and tired, it must leave you wide open for something like this. And then they start beating the crap out of them. So the Guns beating down the Wolves tired, just any sort of self-defense is fleeting. They get a few shots in, but they're just too tired to capitalize. It's the Guns that are able to capitalize over the Wolves. They leave the Wolves down and basically talking about, like, we've been biding our time, we've been saving our energy, we've been waiting for our time to come back around and get the titles back, and we think that time is now. See you guys later, and they walk off. So the Guns beating down the Wolves, taking advantage of their weakened state. Segment rating of 45. So the Guns claiming they're next in line for the tag titles. We'll see what happens with that on Impact. And then we get the world title shot, or world title match at Impact. Josh Alexander defending against Lance Archer, and in the end winning, successfully defending the title. Unfortunately, Josh was off his game, really off his game. I don't know if that means he's tired or if he needs a break or what. inconsistency, stamina. Well, they're both stamina. Lance Archer penalized for declining physical ability. Uh, but yeah, so that match not doing as well as I had hoped, but still doing pretty good. But basically the story of the match is Archer putting down Josh with power moves. Josh trying to submit Archer, but due to his size, basically putting the ankle lock on him can be done, but Archer with his size is pretty able to make his way to the ropes whenever a submission is on him. So that makes it harder for Archer to submit. So eventually Alexander is able to wear Archer down, focusing on the neck, which I am factoring in the Lance Archer moonsault that he had taken. Um, I did make sure it had taken place before this, and it has. So basically, eventually, Alexander focusing on the neck and then planting Archer with a tombstone pile driver, uh, retaining the Impact World title. Josh Alexander, defense number 8 of the world title. Archer with a 47, Alexander with a 43, but it looks like Archer is getting tired. Or at least Alexander is getting tired, and Archer's uh, physical capabilities are declining, which I kind of bums me out because I had hoped they would do better. Because I kind of consider both these guys as like the top two active, like people on our roster. But I guess Archer's getting old and Alexander's getting tired, so take the match taking a hit, but still a decent match overall. But after the match is where the big story comes in because as Alexander gets the title and he celebrates, he goes to the top rope, he celebrates his win. The lights go out. The lights go out, and we get a countdown on the screen. Counts from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Christian Cage, fresh off of AEW, making his return to Impact. So once the countdown ends, he walks out to the ring or walks out on the stage, getting a big pop from the crowd, looking around, looking out for his peeps, searching, and then he sees Alexander in the ring with the Impact World title, and he looks at Alexander and he makes the motion for the world title belt. And that's how we end our show. Christian Cage returning to Impact and staking a claim for the Impact World title, possibly. Will it be at Bound for Glory? We'll find out. Bound for Glory again coming up quick in the next 2 weeks. But Christian Cage making his return to Impact. Um, Captain Charisma gimmick, which was set on, but small penalty to star quality, which I don't. That kind of bums me out considering he's probably going to be one of our top stars in some shape or form. So, but yeah, Victory Road ending with the return of Christian Cage. So we finished the show. Overall rating of 44, which kind of bums me out. I compared to our pay-per-views, I don't know, but like, considering we've been getting 45s for our TV and that not being, the best um like the best whatever ratings for our TV, let alone our pay-per-view. We had good segments. I guess when your best segment is a Maria Kanellis promo, I don't know what else to say. But there, we didn't have anything really bad. We didn't have anything in the red. We had a 23 for the Carino Henry Hikuleo alliance, but that's pre-show, so that doesn't count. We had 42 for the mixed tag, 43 for Juice Robinson's return, uh, 43 for the Knockouts title. X Division title was kind of a disappointment. Uh, the Wolves with the match of the night, 51. Maria with the promo of the night. If we didn't have that, which originally we didn't, I don't know, it would probably been more like a 43 or 42. Uh, the title match doing a 41, and then so yeah, we got. I'm just looking to see who we want to give our props to. For our post-show speech, might as well give it to Maria. Maria giving us the segment of the night. We'll compliment her on a good performance. I don't want to give Eddie and Davey more because that's pretty much what we end up doing. Uh, but that might be what we end up doing. Uh, let's say let's give it for Christian Cage as his return. Uh, we'll compliment him on a good performance, and let's do Deonna. I think we've only uh, give Deonna her props. We'll compliment her on a good performance. She did a 50 on her match. She pretty much carried that match. So we'll just give it to them instead of giving it to Eddie and Davey every month. So pleased, pleased, pleased. So if I click further on this, it'll go to uh, all the loading. So yeah, Victory Road in the books. Shock ending as Christian Cage making his return to Impact and immediately uh, setting his sights on the world title. We have Bound for Glory matches already set. Already set. We have a ladder match for the world title briefcase, and then we have the Knockouts title match, which didn't happen tonight. Pushed back to Bound for Glory, and then, like I said, we have 2 weeks of Impact. So it's like I said, we're in the home stretch, and we got 2 episodes of Impact and a pay-per-view, and then that's basically, I don't want to say that's it because I'm sure I'll come back to it someday, but we're we're kicking it in high gear. And Bound for Glory is our big show, so we got to go out big if we're going out at all. So till then, thanks for watching Victory Road. Thanks for hanging in there. And I will see you for Impact.